So yeah, so yeah, I remember this quote about imitation as a kind of flattery, artless flattery, which one Charles Caleb Colton seems to have said. He was like a vicar, and then, oops, it was then picked up by Oscar Wilde. So sincere from flattery, that mediocrity can pay to greatness. So I don't really share that. I think in our case, imitation in terms of like reusing somebody else's models is actually quite a good thing. So, and I'll tell you why. So we ran our survey. We've got currently 39 responses, and I've picked a couple of the word clouds um, to illustrate, why I think this is a good idea to implement in some way, shape, or form, or to pursue it. So one question was, which stage do you consider to be the biggest bottleneck towards publication? This was referring to the stages of a neutron experiment, a scattering experiment. And you can see that, post-experiment data analysis, analysis and data interpretation. So that's pretty clear. Um, so abilities, do you wish your preferred software had, but I'm missing very clearly models, graphical model generation, um, I don't know, easy models, user interface, good for RefNX. So to me, that suggests a common theme here. Where would you like more support and how? Data analysis, data interpretation, um, data do things. I mean, you can read for yourself. It's basically the same kind of thing. It's related questions. Interestingly, where would you like to see the future direction of data analysis go? AI, maybe because it's capitals, it looks bigger, but certainly it's AI. So automation, models, easier analysis, access to models. So I think that's also very clear. And then tutorials, also video tutorials, example notebooks, Jupyter notebooks, example data, and so on. And the interesting thing about this was also that if you go back to the question of how many refractometry experiments you've performed, so 70% of respondents were expert users, private class expert users of more than 10 lifetime experiments. So that's basically the motivation. The further motivation in terms of summarizing it as kind of benefits, I've listed here a few that came to mind. So I want to reduce the ease of use especially for novice users, but also for people who do that all the time. You don't want to have to replicate your work or reinvent the wheel. If we were to collect a kind of library, we could do an analysis and see which models are recurring models, are common models, are most used models, which will then tie into the model language and what kind of templates we can provide that would actually cover a lot of ground. We could have some kind of validation. It would help with reproducibility. It would sort of add to the fairness of our data. And such a data set of annotated models could serve as training data for machine learning for whatever purpose you wish to do it. And I was thinking of a library. So here's the Bodleian Library in Oxford. It's less like a library that I envisioned it, but rather like a template, a list of templates that people can pick up and then reuse and insert their own parameters. So I think that's fairly evident. At the moment, the model building is still pretty much a manual process for novice users, certainly from scratch. For more experienced users, obviously, they have their own kind of model library. The layer models, we've heard Frank's very nice talk yesterday, which demonstrates that, indeed it is possible to not be stuck to layers. Sometimes People are still using a simple GUI. And we also have lots and lots of fitting packages for photometry. And there's this dilemma between, ease of use, which has limitations, and higher flexibility, which obviously makes it harder. So for the discussion, I have just written down a few ideas to get ourselves started. So how do others do it? So the only other place which I could find, which has already something similar, is again our sort of cousins from small angle scattering, which already in SAS view, there may be other software packages out there. So you have this friendly interface, and you have categories of models, and then subcategories, and then you pick one, and then it gives you the input parameters, and it's then documented, so it's clear what all these parameters mean. And then you can put your data in there. You may still have picked the wrong model. There's no help for that. There's no cure for that, but it does get you started quite easily. And they also have this marketplace where people can presumably trade models, um, and they get collected, and they get verified in some way, shape, or form. So I'm sure people who are involved with Kansas know a lot more about this than I do. But I thought that looks quite sensible. So it's all nicely documented, and people can sort of pick and choose. So for the discussion, I just put in um, some ideas to get us started. So whoops, I need to do that. Need to get bigger. So if we wanted to collect models, what would be the best way of doing it? Top down and bottom up, meaning should say also people or some people go around collecting models, or should we solicit submission of models from people, which is obviously much harder to do, or both. What about validation? Once we have them, should we define some rules for validating them? I think it was Joss who already put in a place, a folder on the ORSO GitHub for a model library. So there are folders for each, well, for some, and not for each, for some of the fitting packages. We could use that. We could lump stuff in there. We could link it with an SLD database and make it more searchable and so on. So you're welcome to scan these and visit. So one is the SLD database website, and the other one is this the link to this model folder. And then we heard stuff about ontologies yesterday. Should we index them? What categories should we have, and how do we best make it AI ready? Because I'm relatively convinced from a few things I've tried with ChatGPT that given a relatively small number of models, more than one, but a small number, and something like ChatGPT, if you train it on that data set, could probably build you a model in code just based on prompts. So yeah, so I think that's all I wanted to say, and it'd be interesting to hear everybody's views to guide our efforts, I guess, or everybody's efforts.